wanna be free when my people to prosper and hold it down. Don't you sit and wait, contemplating on a revolution. The time is now. I just wanna be free. 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 Can't you see?
Okay. Another episode of the Things I Wish I Knew About Money podcast. I'm your host, Camille Smith, and today I have a very special guest, Jason. We managed to meet online. It's my second time that I'm able to get international guest, So it's a pleasure and an honor for you to come on the platform and all that good stuff. So Jason, welcome.
Hey, what's up, Camille? I'm excited to be here. Glad we could make it happen.
Yes. And you know, I don't normally talk about this, but it's actually one of my favorite things to do because I just learned about it like during the pandemic. So when you came to me and actually wanted to talk about, I was like, "Ooh, yes." And I managed to see some of your YouTube videos about it, and I noticed that you've been doing it for quite a while. So I
hmm
would say you're kind of you are a guru, and I think they call you Mr. Don't Go Broke. Is that what they call you?
Mr. You never go broke taking the profit. That's why we get the shirts
Okay.
to remind people to take profit while you have it.
That is very true. I'm pretty sure in the journey that you've had that there's been times where, you've haven't taken profits, but I'm sure your story about how you started doing options is not like the same as like other folks. And because I from based on what I've done my research, did you use a student loan? Huh.
Yeah, a part of it was using the student loan, but when I first got started in the stock market,
Yeah.
I took like $2,000 of my graduation money and I went to a well-known bank.
Hmm.
And then graduated from high school, that is, and went to a well-known bank. Was like, hey, I want to invest because we kind of grew up, rich with God and love, but we were financially broke. And so I'm like, how do we change our situation? And you always hear about investing, and you
Yeah.
always hear too, if you start early and just let it sit, you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 60 or something. So I'm like, okay, I'm 18, let's start now.
Yeah.
But I took them that $2,000 and came back at 20 years old, 20 to 21. So 2 to 3 years later,
Yeah.
they lost $1,300 and there's only $700 left. And I thought experts don't lose money. And I was like, I could have lost my own money. And so I wanted to get my $700 back. I was like, I could do this myself.
Hmm.
And I took $500 and I did what most people do is buy stock in a company that you work for, which at the time for me was Sprint PCS. I was selling cell phones inside the store.
Okay.
But what I realized was that most of the times that us normal people don't have enough money to buy the good companies that don't go out of business, that move two, three, four, $5 in a day. We're stuck
Hmm.
buying the penny stocks or the cheap stuff. But I realized that options was a way that I could control some of the bigger stocks as well as manage a small account and grow it
Hmm.
by controlling stocks versus owning them. So that was my introduction to options. And once I understood that, I was just thinking, how do I get more money into the machine? Because initially I had that $500 and I made like $50 off of it. But then
Hmm.
I was like, okay, how do I get more money in the machine? And that's what led me to I had a scholarship to Wayne State University here in Detroit, Michigan, which is now the Mike Ilitch School of Business. And so I applied for student loan, knowing that they would double pay the account. I would get the refund. And I took
Yes.
that $10,000 student loan and I traded options and grew it to like 113 or $120,000 as a 21-year-old college student. So that was kind of my introduction into the game.
Nice. And so I want to kind of go back because obviously you mentioned that you were rich in God and love, but you were broke in finances. But how did you learn about, like, okay, I had this $2,000. Maybe I should, I'm 18, I should actually start in the stock market. Because I think, and this is for both Canadians and Americans, we don't know these things when we're younger, but you were able to maximize and capitalize on it at a young age, which is very phenomenal. So where did you learn that overall? Like, was it from the outside world or like mentorship or just someone that you knew?
Yeah, no, it was a combination of just paying attention to everything around me.
Hmm.
When I was growing up, I didn't have a bed when we were growing up. We slept in sleeping bags, and so I went over to my best friend's house when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Wow, you have a bed." And he probably looked at me like I was crazy. Like, of course I got a bed, but I'm like, I thought only grown-ups had beds because me and my brother slept in sleeping bags. And so I was aware from a young age that there was like a financial difference. And so he had two parents. My dad passed when I was 2 years old, car accident. And
Hmm.
so I thought, okay, well, he has two parents. So they have two incomes. So maybe that's
Hmm.
the answer.
Yeah.
But then I watched my mom get a second job. And I'm like, well, we got two incomes and it still ain't making ends meet. So I'm like, that wasn't really the answer.
Yeah.
And so I just was always curious, like, okay, so, two incomes, that wasn't it. So
Hmm.
then it's like, okay, you hear, when I looked at everyone who was wealthy, it was typically, white people or people that just didn't look like me. And everybody on TV or something was typically older white men. And so they always talked about the stock market. So I'm like, all right, how do I get into the stock market? And as I get older, like 18 and stuff, I
Hmm.
got involved with network marketing. And network marketing was a really big catalyst for me because the network marketing, if you've ever done it before, where you're having home parties and doing presentations in people's living rooms and trying to recruit people. One
Yep.
thing, if you join the right network marketing company, they really do a lot of personal growth and personal development. And I remember I'm standing in the store, I'm selling cell phones for Sprint PCS inside of Best Buy. I'm working
Hmm.
all my weekends away, and I'm just like, man, there's got to be a better life than working all my weekends away.
Hmm.
And on my lunch break, I don't know how I heard about the book. I think someone at the network marketing groups talked about it. It's like I'm going to the bookstore to grab a book. I think it was thinking not Think or Rich. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And once
Yeah. Yeah.
again, he was always like, you got to get to the I quadrant and, get over here to the investor quadrant. So I'm like, all right, I got to get in the investor quadrant. And so, I just was always looking for answers, but
Yeah.
everything, all North Stars pointed back to the stock market, whether it's the people on TV, the
Hmm.
people that had money, the books I read or the audio books, they kept saying you got to invest. And so I'm like, okay, I got to figure out a way to invest. So no one taught me it per se. It was just my awareness that we didn't have money and how are we going to get it led me to start searching. And everything kept saying stock market, stock market. But I didn't know how to make it work for me. I knew other people made it work. I was like,
Yeah.
how do I make it work for me? Because my situation is different from Warren Buffett's, right? He has billions. How do I make this work off $500 after they just lost 1,300 of it? So
Hmm.
I'm trying to figure out how do I make it work. And I think that's what most people are wrestling with when they wake up. They like, God, great. I heard him, I heard you, but how do I make it work with my situation, with my kids on this husband laid off, wife laid off, or whatever the case may be, student loan debt. I got in some credit card trouble, not me personally. I'm saying people are trying to figure out
That's
how
their
do they make
stories.
it work for them. And that
Exactly.
was me. I was just on a journey to say, got it. How do I make it work for me? And that's for me. I looked around, took
Hmm.
the $500, I invested it. And what happened was when I bought Sprint PCS at $5, I'm making $8 an hour working weekends. So that's 64 bucks on a Saturday. When you took taxes out, I made $50. So I said, I can buy 100 shares because our stock was $5 a share. When I bought Sprint, It went
Okay.
from 5 to 4. I'm like,
Oof.
oh my God, this doesn't work. Like maybe this is harder than I think.
Yeah.
And then it went back from 4 to 5, like over the next few days. So I'm like,
Okay.
okay, we're about to break even. If I could just break even,
Yeah.
then it can go up to 550 and I'll make my $50. I felt like somebody was behind the curtain, like sitting the stock down, like don't let it go up to 550 because it fell again. And so
Oh
I'm like,
no.
yeah, so I'm like pissed. I'm like, the stock market rigged. They don't want black people to make money. Like, I got all these hangups about the stock. I'm thinking they know my color, my race, my gender, something. And they just quote unquote hating on me. So
Yeah.
then the stock went back up to 5.
Okay.
And I said, I've seen this before. I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
out at 5, which is my break even. Then the
Yes.
stock fell back down to 4. And then I bought in at 4. And when it went up to 5, I got out and I made $100.
Boom.
And so what I realized at that point, Camille, and everyone listening, was two things. Number one, I spent a ton of months, ton of hours researching patterns. I didn't realize at the time that that was called a channel in stock. It was channeling from 5 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 5. So it
Yes.
wasn't that the stock market had something against me. Had I
Mm-mm.
known how to read the charts, it would have told me, wait till it gets down here to 4, then buy in. And so that was the first thing that I noticed. The second thing that I noticed was I only have $500. That's cute to make $50 and try not to work weekends, but that's not gonna get me wealthy. And so,
Mm.
like I was saying, most people are asking the same question: how do I make this work for me? I looked around, and Rich Dad Poor Dad was always like, money is not what you see with your eyes. Money is like how you think, right? There's
Yeah.
opportunity all around you. And so I don't want to spoil the book if anyone hasn't read it, but it talked about how those kids found opportunity and generated money from it without having any money. For me, in my situation, that was the student loans. That book taught me, like, okay, how can I come up with money out of thin air from not having money? And so for me, it was a student loan because I had a scholarship, applied for that. I knew how to get the refund, and it
Mm-hmm.
was time to grow it. But I had the confidence that I could grow it because I was already growing that $500 multiple times. So I
Yes.
had the belief that all I'm doing is the same thing, just with more money. And let me address this too,
Mm.
because I know people listening to this will be like, isn't that risky to take a $10,000 student loan and use it for something it wasn't intended for? I think it's a mindset issue because I think about risk a different way. I
Yes.
said, if this doesn't work, I'm like everybody else. I'll just pay it back over 30 years and make small monthly payments, like no big deal. But if this works, I can live like nobody else. And I did. At 21, I'm driving a Lexus. I dropped out of school because I made 120 grand. I was day trading full time for the next 3 years. And so
Mm-hmm.
to me, the real risk was if I don't do this, like what if it works and I
Yes.
don't do this? It wasn't what if it doesn't work and I lose 10,000? I'm like, I'll do what everybody else do. Everybody else in debt too, and just making it and getting by.
Yeah.
So I said, let me, and then the other thing, my mindset was like, I'm like,
I was
I,
about
I
to
come
say
from
that.
Detroit, from the hood. I'm like, listen, I seen my friends take same $10,000 student loans and they
Mm-hmm.
went shopping, they bought shoes. Some of them threw parties, got into drugs with that 10 grand and just blew through their refund. So I'm like, I believe in God. I'm like, can it really be that bad? I'm doing something positive with it. And so I
True.
just believe, number one, I would be blessed. And number two, even if I was still blessed to have the opportunity to trade and it didn't work, I
Mm-hmm.
still felt like I was better off going that route than doing what some of my friends and other people do. People go into debt for TVs, Louis Vuitton purses, stuff that don't make them money. I was going into debt for opportunity. And so I'll take that bet on myself any day of the week. And that was my motivation.
And I'm not gonna sip any tea with that statement, but that's true. And I love the story because you actually learned, even though at the beginning, because I like this happens to a lot of folks. Like as soon as they get into the stock market, they feel like, okay, it's ready, drop it, and they're like, nah, it's a done deal. Like especially during the pandemic, that's when I started reading the charts and all that good stuff. So I like how as soon as you seen the pattern going up and down, you're like, something's going on here. And that's when you started doing your research and realized that there was a resistance or a resistant level. and there's a
Yeah,
support level. And once you
absolutely.
know that part, it's a done deal. So I liked how you were like getting the $100 or $50, actually $100.
I was going to try to make 50, but I ended up making 100. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're like, ooh. So when you started, you kind of you wanted the 50, but you weren't thinking of it as a percentage, correct? Or were you just like, I
No,
just
I
want this
wasn't.
50?
I was just straight like, how do I
Mm-hmm.
make $50 so I don't have to work Saturdays? That was the only thing. I wasn't like I want to make 10%.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff didn't really come till later on. But
Mm-hmm.
initially, I'm just like, how do I make $50? I got 500. I wasn't looking at companies like Apple that were like maybe $100 because I'm like,
Yeah,
I can only buy 4 shares. I'm like, it would
true.
have to move like $50 to make, it would have to move like $10 just to make 40. And so
Exactly.
I realized that wasn't realistic. That
Yeah,
I'm like, Apple doesn't move $40, definitely not 4 times a month in order for me to make $50 every week. But I looked
exactly.
at the penny stocks. I thought these do move 50 cents up and down in a week. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my reality. I said, oh, well, I could
Okay.
get 100 shares at $5. 50 cents. I'm not asking for it to do much. I'm like, that's just a little blip on the radar. So I felt like that wasn't asking much. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
to ask Apple to move $40 a month just so I can make 40 or 50,
Right?
whatever the math works out to be, I was like, well, that's probably unrealistic. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. I needed, if I could buy 4 shares, I needed to move like $10 and I
Yeah,
needed to do that every week. I thought, that's not really realistic.
that's wild. And I know because you said you dropped out of school and became a day trader. And I know when it comes to penny stocks, people are like, yes, get it for like $1. Because I've had that experience. Like one of my best um stocks that I have, I got it at $2 and now it's at $30 and it has dividends. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm a genius. I don't know how it happened, but I just think it's amazing. And but I also did research with the penny stocks. So I even though it's great that you did penny stocks, I think it's very important to show people that there is a way to know which penny stocks will work and which ones won't, because obviously we all can't afford Apple, and I think Apple's like what, 130 right now? So we you
Yeah.
have to see
But
what works.
yeah, and that's all I knew at the time. Now
Yes.
that I know more or know
Hmm.
better, it's like, oh, I can control Apple for the
Yes.
same amount that I was buying Sprint PCS. Now that I know about options. So as I grew in
Yes.
my knowledge, I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I can control some of the bigger boy stocks and not buy what I call any stock under $5 is considered a penny stock. That's the technical definition
Correct.
for those who are like it's not a
Basic.
penny. Anything under
Hmm.
five
Yeah.
bucks is considered a penny stock. And so what you'll start to learn though is at least what I call that lottery ticket money, right? You go up to the store, you spend $5 on the lottery ticket, play the lotto, play the Powerball. That's what most people do with these stocks under five. It's only $5. They're like,
Yeah.
give me some. Especially when it's like 50 cents, 20 cents, you could buy a bajillion shares. And you're like, if it just goes to $2, I'm rich, right?
Right?
But the reality is, the closer it is to zero, the closer it is to going out of business. And if it was a good company, it wouldn't typically be down at that price. So there's all these other things that we ignore because we're just
Yes.
looking at it like the lottery. It's like, ooh,
Hmm.
lottery ticket. Let's see if it could blow up.
Hmm.
But once you move from gambling and looking at it like the lottery, you can't build a lifestyle or a long-term track record off gambling off which is the next penny stock that's gonna go out of business or go to the moon. That's you can't build a lifestyle off that. You can't build a career. You can't walk away from your job. And so I realized I had to get more methodical, more systematic, and
Hmm.
find an approach that would last a lifetime and not a
Like a
gambler's
short.
dream.
That, and you're absolutely right. And I love how you said, I love that saying, the lottery ticket way, because I think a lot of folks, especially now, find it like they want to just get that quick money. But I keep telling folks like, No, guys, slow and steady wins the race. And also learning. And I know that you graduated from like the penny stocks to learning about the options. And what was your first option trading? And how did that rush feel? Because I know the sprint, that feeling was like, ooh, ooh. How was the feeling with your first option?
Well, it was the same because it was with Sprint. I just start switching over
Okay,
from doing it with the stock to doing it with the option. I
got
was
it.
buying Netflix back in the day before options on that before it was as big as it is now. Because again, remember, I'm selling phones inside of Best Buy. Back
True.
then, I remember back then I would come to the team meetings for Best Buy, and they would have like these meetings about the new electronics that they're about to sell. Every TV would have this little stuffing card in it for Netflix about these CDs that they were shipping. So like you
Okay.
kind of had a way to learn about the new tech. And so I was trading Netflix way back then. I remember making like $50,000 or something off Netflix. And when I started making that kind of money at
Mm-hmm.
that age, it was just I think the thought process for me at that point was like I'm making because six figures was like the goal. You thought if you made six figures, you made it. I'm
Yes.
like, I'm halfway to six figures, not working without my degree. And
Mm-hmm.
so those were kind of the thoughts. I'm like, I'm on to something here. Like
Yes.
I'm making more money than any of my peers, more money than my mom has ever made. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
making it not working. And I'm
Or hustling.
halfway to the goal. And it hasn't only been 2, 3 months, maybe. And I still got
Nice.
9 more months to the year. So I figured that out quickly that I can make my whole year in just a few months. Even if you look at some of the videos I did this year, in as of March 15th, I was up $146,000. I said I could quit for the rest of the year. I used to have to work all year long and half of next year to make over $100,000. I'm like, I made that in the first 3 months of this year. I literally cannot, I could stop trading for the rest of the year and
And be
just I'd be
good.
good. I'd be
Nice.
good.
That's
And
because
so
of
I
the all
knew
the
that
meetings.
yeah, I
All
knew
the
that that
Fed
was the
meetings.
power of the stock market, and I knew that if I
Mm-hmm.
stuck with it, that would be
Yes.
the lifestyle and the options that I would be able to have. Or you can flip it around a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to buy $100,000 car. I'm like, okay, I just made enough to pay for the car cash in the
Yes.
first 2.5 months, 2 months and a, yeah, 2.5 months of the year. So I mean, you can slice it however you want. You want to get into real estate? It's like you could take a $500,000 property, 20% down on a $500,000 property is 100,000. I made enough to put 20% down on the $500,000 property in the first 2.5 months of the year.
Damn.
And I still got $46,000 left, which could carry the note on the property while I try
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to rent it out or Airbnb it. So it really creates opportunity that somebody trying to catch me working a job.
Yeah.
I mean, it take them forever to try to save $146,000 cash. And then when they save it, they scared to put it at risk in the next investment because they know how long it took for them to come up with it. So
That is
the
very
quicker
true.
that people can get into this game and understand the power of having your money work for you instead of you work hard for it, it just changes your life. It changes how you look at everything. And you'll do whatever it takes to get into that game when you see it like that. And that's
Yeah.
how I feel. Like I'll do whatever it takes to be in this game. I'll drive Uber on the weekends. I'll do DoorDash. I'll sell my computer monitors. I mean, as long as I got a laptop that I can still look at stocks, I'll
Yes.
sell whatever I need to sell to make sure I'm able to play in this game. If things just went horribly wrong or something someday.
Hmm.
But the point
Knock
is,
on wood.
no, I mean, at this point in the game, it's not much that can go. I mean, we paid off the house, the cars, we have no debt, we have a YouTube channel, we have a business. I mean, it's you know, something could always happen, but we're so far from like, oh, but the point is, I'd always keep that in my back of my head that if I need to get into this game. None of this
Yeah.
stuff means nothing. This Rolex watch, I will
Mm-hmm.
sell this if it's gonna raise me the capital to get back
To
into the
get
stock
that.
market. Because I know that the stock market will buy me this again in 2.5 months if I have the right opportunities.
Yeah. And I love how you have like you've gotten to that level or that point where you're good. Like I have the knowledge. It's just a matter of time to be able to read the charts have the monitors. I'm wondering how many monitors you have because I I remember doing it with one screen and I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." But once I got two, I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful."
Yeah, really all you need is two. Like,
Hmm.
social media and stuff will make you think you need like six monitors with all kind of stuff blinking, but a lot of that stuff is just for show. You really
True.
just need one to look at the charts and then one to
Hmm.
actually place the trade
Execute.
or the execution while you watching what
Yes.
happens. Assuming you day trade. If you're not day trading, still nice to have a second monitor to do your research. I
Hmm.
mean, look at your charts, and then I like to
Yes.
have like my news and research up on a different monitor. But really, two monitors and you're good.
True.
Everything else is just for show. When people be like, "I got 8 monitors," it's like, why, why, why?
Like all this for nothing.
Yeah,
And
people just be acting the fool for social media.
it's true. And I know people are gonna look at this and say like, he must be like young, because I know even though you said you started when you're 18 and stuff, you look very young, as do I. Um, and I know you have your own power trades university where you mentor others. How did that come about?
Yeah, so the brownreport.com, which is my
Hmm.
name, Jason Brown. So I started the Brown Report when I had
Okay.
made a lot of money as a 22, 23-year old. I had to actually end up risking, and this is important to tell this part of the story because people just come on and be like, "Oh, I made a lot of money and life was great." I risked 250,000 trying to make 500,000. I was downtown Royal Oak. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a condo cash. I'm like, I'm gonna buy the ultimate bachelor pad and I'm gonna pay cash for it. I was just
Hmm.
feeling myself. I'm like, I know how to make money in the market. I can make it quick. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pay cash. I'm gonna be set. Risk 250,000, trying to make 500,000, and I lost it all. I lost majority of it, and then the next one or two trades just took the rest of it. But that's where I came up with some of my sayings. I never forget that trade because I was actually up like $70,000, and I was like, no, I'm going for like 500,000. And I think it went up to maybe 200 and then tank, and like I never took the profit. And that's where I came up with like, dude, you never go broke taking a profit. Why'd you have to do it all in one trade, right? And so I lost that money,
Hmm.
and then I had to move back home. I had to get my slice of humble pie. I sold my Lexus, couldn't make my
That's
rent payment, so I said I got to move back home and get a job. When I
hmm.
moved back home, I actually said I am going to vlog and record myself making the money back. And so
Okay.
that's how the Brown Report came about. And then as I was making the money back, people would be like, "What kind of trader are you? Are you a day trader?" Because every time they hear trade, they think day trading is the only type of trader. And then there's swing trading, there's long-term trader and long-term investor, a dividend investor. And
Hmm.
I was like, I'm a power trader. Like I put
A.
a bunch of power behind my trades. Like I put a bunch of money, power behind it, or I
Hmm.
use options to put power behind it. So that's how it came about. It's like I'm a power trader. And I was like, I'm going to teach people that they don't need to have a lot of money. They just need to have a lot of power behind it. And you can have
Yeah.
that power with options if you know when and how to use them. And so that's how I came about to teach and create Power Trades
Yes.
University. And the other thing about our methodology was that teaching people how to avoid the mistakes that I made. So a lot of my sayings came from my lifestyle. Like you never go broke taking a profit. That came from me saying, like, why didn't I take profit? I should have like it's like, dude, you would never go broke again if you take profit. That came from that. When I
Hmm.
lost all that money, even though I was up, I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no one trade that's gonna get you there, but there is one trade that can blow up your account. So now we
True.
teach our students like, it's no one trade that'll get you there. I'd
Yeah.
rather you be consistent versus trying to make one trade be a home run. And so I really just took everything that I knew about trading from experience and life
Yeah.
and compiled it into Power Trades University. And like, let's teach it the way that I wish people would explain it to me. Like now I teach my students to buy insurance. I'm like, I had $250,000 at risk. I had
Hmm.
no put options. I could have had some put options in place. So if it went the opposite way, my account would have got repaired and I would have got made whole the same way I buy insurance on a car or a house.
Hmm.
So now I teach my students like, look, if you got that type of money, I can show you how to grow it and protect it. And
True.
so you know, a lot of it just came from stuff I wish I knew, but I had nobody teaching me. I was just learning this stuff, making money, losing money on my own. But it also gave me the experience to be where I'm at. So I really wouldn't change a thing, you know?
250,000. I mean, you have to be humble. You have to get those lessons to be able to humble yourself and rearrange and organize to be disciplined. Because it is about being disciplined and not being greedy and taking profits. So I'm glad you have that motto and slogan, especially to
Right.
keep to remind yourself, because you know what, that is something I've had to deal with as well. Like, I was always like, if I'm not getting 100%, I don't want it. It has to be 100% or it's gone. But I wouldn't do an option play that was humongous. I would just do like, I love me and the spy just, I keep a track of the charts and everything, but I don't want anyone to get confused because you did say put, and just to make sure, because I have talked about it, but I just want you to give like a basic rundown about options, if that's possible. Just a basic,
Yeah.
so people
Well,
know.
here's the thing. Most people, well, I want to make one other comment about losing $250,000.
Hmm.
The worst thing was I thought life was over. I'm like, I'll never have this much money again. Like, little
Hmm.
did I know I'd become a millionaire, right? But at the time, I'm like, my life is over.
Hmm.
The second thing about that is now I can lose $5,000, $10,000, and it's like, that's like, I mean, losing that 250 was like
Yeah.
devastating. Now, if
Yes.
it's less than 250, I'm like, we'll be okay. But that's just something you have to go through and grow through. Now,
Yes.
when you talk about put options, most people don't understand
Hmm.
that they are already using put options. It's just no one ever explains it to them like this. And so let me give you an example.
Hmm.
If you buy insurance on your car, you are buying a put option. A
True.
put option says if the value of something goes down, you
Hmm.
can put it to somebody at a higher price and get made whole again. So for example, you buy a $100,000 car,
Yes.
you typically pay $300 a month in insurance. If you go out here, smash the car into the wall, you will exercise your put option, and now that car's worth zero. You will
Hmm.
put it to your insurance company for $0, and they will give you $100,000, right? So you
True.
just exercise your put option. Same thing with life insurance. If God forbid something happened to you, you have a put option on your life. If the value of your life goes to zero because you're deceased, the
Hmm.
insurance company will cut your family a check and make them whole again. You buy home insurance or renter's insurance. If your house catches on fire, the value decreased drastically, maybe by
Right.
50%. You exercise your put option, and now the insurance company will make you whole again. So that is what a put option is. It is a contract that says for a certain amount of time, you are covered up to this dollar amount.
Yes.
And you could buy 30-day put options, weekly put options. You could buy 1 year put options. I just like to use 30 days because most people pay for their insurance every 30 days. And so sometimes people say, well, what happens if you buy a put option and the stock doesn't fall? You just wasted your money. I'm like, well, when you pay your car insurance, do you say, like, I'm going to stop paying it next month because I didn't get in a car accident and I don't want to waste money? And so you got to think about it differently. You gladly pay that
Yeah.
every single month. But when it comes to your $100,000 stock portfolio, you all of a sudden don't want to waste money protecting your $100,000 investments. And if the stock market is going up,
Hmm.
your $100,000 should more than cover the cost of the insurance that you're paying for. So it's all about changing the mindset and really understanding how these things work. And most
True.
people don't know how they work, as well as when stocks fall, you can make money from your put option. So most people just sit there and say, I'm just not going to look at it for 30 years. Where people like me, it's like, I'm going to make some money today when everything's selling off because I can buy put
Hmm.
options and make money from stocks falling. So that's just a brief, overview of how put options work.
Yeah. And I'm I'm glad you said it in such a simple way, because yeah, our car insurance. I
The put
haven't gotten
option.
into an accident since. So like you do put that money away and it is a smaller amount than
Hmm.
if there was an accident that was to happen. And that is the same with the put option. I'm curious to see how you would put give an analogy with a call option. Let's see. Yes.
I mean, a call option is very similar. I like to use
Mhm.
real estate with a call option. And
Yeah.
so when you think about buying a house, let's just say there's a $200,000 house. You go
Hmm.
see the house, you like it, you want to put an offer in, it's accepted. You typically don't say, hey, here's $200,000 cash. What you usually do is say, here's a $2,000 earnest money deposit. And
Hmm.
you have 30 days to do what? Get an inspection, make sure there's, everything is correct, get an appraisal. If in that 30 days the appraisal comes back and say, guess what? This neighborhood is booming, Amazon's moving in, building a facility on the street.
Yeah.
This house is now worth $250,000. Well, you have two choices. You
Hmm.
can exercise that option because you have it under contract. You have a call option.
Yes.
You can call them up with the
Hmm.
call option and say, I want the house for 200,000,
Yes.
and then you could turn around and sell it for 250,000. You make $50,000. But
Hmm.
you have to come up with the 200,000 to buy it. Here's
Yes.
where a call option comes in. You have this piece of paper that you only put $2,000 down for to say, I have the right to buy this house for the next 30 days for 200,000.
Yeah.
You can then turn around and sell that paper to somebody else and say, hey,
Hmm.
you want to live here? Amazon's moving in. The value of this house has gone up, but I got it
Yeah.
under contract because I got this call option. You
Hmm.
can sell that paper to them for
Yeah.
$50,000. They'll buy the paper for 50,000 and buy the house for 200. So that's 250 to them, but they feel the house is worth 250 because of the appraisal. However, you just took $2,000 and controlled a
Yes.
$200,000 house and then sold that paper for 50,000. So your 2,000 just
Hmm.
made you 50,000 or 48,000 profit, and you controlled a $200,000 house that you never actually had to have $200,000 to own the house or control it. I should say control it.
Control.
If you want to
Yes.
own it, yeah, you got to get a loan and somebody actually has to deliver cash. But to control it for that
Yeah.
30 days, you only needed the earnest money deposit to control it for 30 days. And that's the same thing. You can control some of the best stocks for 30
Yes.
days, 60 days, 90 days for pennies on the dollar.
Because the cost of it is much lower than the getting the actual 100 shares. And
Exactly.
I just have to let you know that there are barely any houses in Toronto that is going for 250. Our economy is crazy these days, but it's all good. I'm pretty sure the folks understand. Um, I also wanted to say, gosh, I lost my train of thought, but what advice or what did you wish you knew when you were younger? I guess before age 18, because it's something I always ask. What are the things you wish you knew about money when you were younger? Because at 18, you're set. You had the understanding, but how about when you're a little bit younger?
Gosh, I don't know because that was the age where I was just asking a lot of questions, right? Like, why don't we have a bed? How come, I was dating a
Mm,
young lady that I got invited out to her house and I'm like, oh, they don't have bars on their windows. So I mean, at that age, I was asking what I didn't know. So I don't know that there's something that like, oh, I wish I knew this because I was doing what I thought was best. Like even my $2,000 graduation money,
mm-hmm.
I wasn't like, I wish I would have known to invest because I did. I was like
True.
smart enough to be like, I'm going to open a mutual fund at 18. So I'm not really sure if there's something I wish I knew. I think, if I had to pinpoint something I wish I knew, it'd be less about money, but
Mm-hmm.
more about I wish early on I knew that certain people had money and weren't happy. And I wish I knew that I need to find the happiness in making my money. Because initially I went to school to be an
Mm.
engineer. And I
Oh,
only went to school to be an engineer because the girl I dated, they had that big house and no bars on them. When I said, what are your parents do? She's like, they're engineers. they were engineers at Ford Motor Company. So I was like, I want to be an engineer, right? I think that's what most people do. I want to be a doctor. I heard they make money. But
Mm-hmm.
what something very unique happened. I was blessed and fortunate is that her parents was like, come, you want to be an engineer? Come to us for work one day and whatever. And I was able to go and see how they worked. And
Mm-hmm.
her stepdad, he like worked. They took me down in this basement. It's like a dungeon, and they had all these dummies in this like car with the car open, and they
Yeah.
had this track with these rails, and they just rammed the car into the wall. I was like, whoa. And so it was really cool. And they had all these lasers on the dummy.
Yeah.
And so they had these printouts. I was like, so what does this stuff mean? They're like, if this number gets above this, that means the dummy's neck would have broke or the human's neck would have broke. So we got to make
Oh,
the headrest be able to withstand a crash at 150 miles an. So it was really cool stuff. But this is
okay.
where it changed for me. I was like, so like that's what y'all do every day? It's like, oh yeah, me and Bill, we've been on this project for the last 25 years. And I thought, y'all work
Golly.
down here in the basement, no windows. Like I like people, I like networking, I like sunshine. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't see myself doing this for 25 years. Like I said I could not. I literally that day said like I cannot. He made good money. His wife was I think she was an engineer too. I
Mm-hmm.
just said I cannot see myself doing this every day for
Not
25
in a
years.
dungeon.
I mean, no disrespect to them. They built a good life. It was
Of
okay for them.
course.
I just I just I was like, mm-mm. And so, but I spent so many years searching for things based off they make money, they make money. I came into
Mm-hmm.
network marketing. They're like, oh, the RVPs, the regional vice presidents make residual income. But
Mm-hmm.
then like I kind of learned about, I'm like, I don't want to be doing these presentations like in people living rooms when I'm his age. Like, like at the time you thought like, oh, that's cool. Then as I learned more, I'm like, my man out. Like they sold you on like you'll never have to work a weekend in your life. I'm like, you working every weekend doing these seminars in the hotel. And
Mm,
like so I just was like, I don't want his lifestyle either. So like if I had to pick something I wish I knew earlier, it was just like, you know, figure out what makes you happy and like how you want to build it. Because
mm-hmm.
going after what everybody else got still might not make you happy. You might get the
True.
money, but you may end up more it may be you may be more being successful in the wrong industry is
Mm,
more is worse than being unsuccessful in the right industry.
that's true. That is bars. I gotta quote that one. Um, that that that's very true because even right now, I mean, we're kind of post-pandemic, kind of in it still. A lot of folks learned how to find their happiness, um, and able to gain like income streams to realize how crucial it is to have like different income streams and also learn like a different money mindset and all that stuff. So I like how you have the Power Trades University and the Brown Report to have people follow you and able to succeed. How many, I guess, because I'm pretty sure you watch EYL sometimes. Do you
I actually don't. Like I
no?
know who they are, but no,
Yeah.
I don't watch them.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Would you
But
say
I don't watch them. I want to be clear. I
mm,
love them brothers over there. I went to Invest Fest. I don't
nice?
I don't I do not I don't watch them because I have anything against them. I don't
Mm-hmm.
watch them because I'm focused on like
Of
every
course.
hour I'm spent watching them, I'm like, I should be recording a YouTube video. I should be recording a podcast. So it's no
That is true.
disrespect to them. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
it's like you watching LeBron play
Mm-hmm.
and
Instead of
you in the league
practicing.
too. You need to be over there practicing and shooting your free throws and running plays. And so I just try to make sure I'm staying in my lane, running my plays versus just the same way I don't watch Jim Cramer or like I very
Not
rarely
him.
watch CNBC because I'm
Yeah.
like, I should be telling my people what I think about the market, not trying to listen to what he think, and they just on there for entertainment. So like I'm
And
very
anything he
conscious of
says.
not trying to listen to a lot of different people. So no disrespect. I love them guys and what they're doing. So
Yeah.
anyway, go ahead with your original question, but I
That
just wanted to put that out there. Love them guys. Love my
mm-hmm.
buddy Wall Street Trapper. Some of them guys I know personally,
Nice.
but
They're
I'm
actually
making
coming to
sure.
Toronto. They're coming this weekend. So
Okay,
I got my ticket, so I'm excited.
nice.
I guess the only thing I was saying is with the mentor, I'm because I mentorship find is very important. How many people have you mentored in the last couple years? That was the
Man, thousands,
thousands.
thousands. We have thousands of people come through
Hmm.
our program.
Yeah.
We got 80 something thousand people on YouTube. In fact, we
Hmm.
just got a thing from our software that says we have over, I think, 6 million views or 600 million, something crazy,
Yeah.
over the lifespan of all of our videos. So, I mean,
Yes.
I feel like every time someone watches a video, I mean, I could,
I was
I
wondering.
look at my phone every day. Someone's like, I just watched your tutorial on TradingView on how to open my account with Robinhood or this and that. Like, to me, that's all mentoring. Every time somebody is like, you help me open my account, you help me understand what a call or a put is. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm always, this podcast is hopefully going to mentor and reach and touch somebody and have them thinking differently about insurance. So,
Absolutely.
we're always trying to, thousands, but through my own platform,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
thousands into the millions.
And I want folks to I am gonna put in the show notes for the folks to reach out to you because you do have tutorials. I was like, oh gosh, let me sit down and get back into the option trading because I I realized my mistakes. I had to humble myself as well. And I have to take them profits because I mean, at the end of the day, if you make, if you get an extra $50 or if you've gone up 25%, it's better than losing the whole damn thing and not realizing that you should. And one of my mistakes is stop loss. I I now have to factor in to know when your entry level is and to know your exit entry and that's one with practice that I've been trying to master because the greed is not going to get you anywhere, especially long
Yeah.
term,
It's like
right?
when you get on the plane, they say, uh, look behind you. Your exit might be behind you, right? And that's the same thing with a stock. You think it's going up, but your exit might be behind you because if it's falling, you need to get out as well. And so, those are all things that goes back
Mhm.
to what I said. We have a saying that make sure you live to trade another day, meaning don't
Yes.
blow up your trade, don't blow up your account. And so
Mhm.
I learned that I blew up my account when I didn't have to. I didn't have to risk a quarter million. I could have risked 50,000 and I would have still had 200,000 left to trade.
True.
So make sure you live the trade another day. If that means taking a small loss, go
Mhm.
get them on the next trade, but live the trade another day.
um I guess one more question because I I want folks to be able to first of all join you join your community, but I also want them to learn as well. What was, I know you had the Rich Dad Poor Dad, what was another book that you read that made you think differently about charting and all that stuff about options?
It was more so just books like mindset books that really helped me. There wasn't really any, that's why I'm actually been thinking about doing the book myself, but the
Hmm.
reason I've been
Ooh.
so against doing the book is because when I was learning this stuff, I would go
Hmm.
to the library, get a book,
Yeah.
and then the words were so big and complicated. Then I would check out a second book to understand that book. Then I
Yeah.
would check out another book to understand that one. I remember I was like 3, 4 books in and I didn't understand any of it. But I was like, why don't they just draw it out or show me? Like, and that's why I moved into courses and showing people versus
Yes.
like, why don't you write a book about? It's like that's like reading a book about Chinese and you don't speak Chinese. Like, if someone's not explaining to you what you're seeing and what you're reading,
It
it's
just
very
goes
hard for
over
you to
their head.
self-interpret. So there
True.
wasn't any stock books that I would be like, oh, everybody should get that. Like,
Hmm.
I'm giving no credit to any stock books because all they had me doing was go get 3, 4 other books, and then I just got irritated and
Hmm.
was like, I don't know what this stuff is. But if I had to name another book that actually helped me, it
Yeah.
would be Think and Grow Rich. That was the next one that really just helped me believe in myself. It was like, you got to think
Yes.
differently and grow as a person, as a human. I like to
Mm-hmm.
tell people the stock market is a personal growth plan with a compensation plan attached. And
I like
so
that.
I did this thing on my Instagram where I said, you know, you want to make 500 bucks, but it goes up to 400 and you like, that's not enough. Kind of like you said, like that ain't enough if it ain't 100%. The world has a way of saying that's not enough. Okay, give it back. And you watch it go from up 400, 300, 200, 100, zero, negative. Now you like, please just give me the money back. I get out. And what I'm trying to share with you that is that's a mirror being held up in front of your face. And that mirror is saying, you're ungrateful in other areas of your life.
Oof.
You
Oof.
you you made 400 bucks not working for it, sitting from your computer, and that wasn't enough. You're up 90%, but if it ain't 100, it ain't worth it. There are other areas in your life, I guarantee that
Mm-hmm.
it's like there's a part of you that doesn't make you a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a part of you that is probably ungrateful for certain things in your life versus you saying like, look, I appreciate, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna
100.
parlay it and grow it into more, but I appreciate what I have today. Food, shelter, my job. People be
Mm-hmm.
mad at their boss and hating their company. I'm like, look, your boss job is not to get you wealthy. Their job is to pay you a fair wage for what you guys agreed upon. So be grateful. It's your
Mm.
job to take that money and then go get rich.
Yeah.
And so when we kind of be like, I hate my boss, I can't wait to fire my job, it's like you forget they gave you opportunity when nobody else would. You forget that
That's
when
true.
you was looking for a way to pay for that wedding and pay for that vacation, you was glad you had that job. And so the stock market will really show you that there's areas that you're not grateful, or people
Mm-hmm.
come in buying penny stocks. It's like, I bet you run red lights too, or run yellow lights because you try to gamble. You try to gamble. Can I
Gamble your
get through this
life.
light and not get caught? Right? That gambling shows up in other areas of your life. I'm telling
That's
you, it holds up a mirror to some of the stuff that's going on in your real life. And until you fix that,
mm-hmm.
you're gonna bring that same foolishness over to the stock market and you're gonna lose all your money.
That's a great analogy. Like, oof. This one I have to listen back and just take that in because I've never seen it that way. And just I gotta look at the mirror more often and just know to humble myself. And trust me, I haven't made gotten a loss like you, but I've lost to the point where I'm like, okay, okay. I I know when to stay on the sidelines and reorganize or reprogram my mind to be better at this because I don't want to be ungrateful and I do want to make generational wealth. So I'm able to, have, I want to be like you when I grow up.
Hey, be better than me, but if I can help encourage you on your journey in any way, that's a compliment.
Yes, yes, yes. And Jason, what other avenues? I know you're not going to do a book anytime soon, but what other avenues
Well,
do
you never
you
know.
Oh, first time, guys. Here's breaking news. uh, what's a couple things that you're about to do in the future and all that good stuff that you can mention?
Yeah, well, there's actually a project we got coming up that we're launching. It's called 5 Year Millionaire. And so,
Okay.
I'm kind of tired of everyone talking about six figures. I'm tired of, when I talk about being a millionaire online and stuff, it's almost like it's so unforeign and so hard to believe that people are young millionaires that like
Mhm.
you almost question like are people really making this type of money? And it's like I want to normalize being a millionaire, and I want to normalize that it don't take 40 years to get there. And
True.
so we're launching a program called 5 Year Millionaire, where it's like we're going to walk you through how if you make basically trades that make about 10% a month on average, if you can
Hmm.
consistently do that for 5 years, you'll earn a little bit over $1 million, and it's starting with as little as anywhere from 500 to $4,000. And so we want to normalize starting with a small account, but being
Yes.
consistent, being grateful with 10%, taking that
Hmm.
small win, because over time that compounds. And when you look at, I could be a millionaire in 5 years, that's not that long. Most
True.
people go to school for 5 years, and the only thing they leave with is $50,000 in debt and a hope that they get a job. And so we want to kind of change that narrative and say it don't cost $50,000, and you'll get
Hmm.
something more than a job. You'll get skills that you can use for life, which is how to
True.
make your money work hard for you. And it's quite possible. I can't guarantee anybody will become a millionaire because I don't know what the
Hmm.
future holds and what the market's going to give us, but it's
Hmm.
quite possible that we can create some millionaires in 5 years. And so that's our next
Ooh,
project that we're launching.
I'm excited about that. Folks, you heard it because, and I'm glad that you mentioned for small accounts because I know a lot of folks. I was talking to someone just yesterday. They were like, I just don't know where to invest. I don't know how much money. The most questions I usually get is how much money do I put in? What should I invest in? And ideally, I'm working towards being a CFP, so I can't really, say everything, but I'm like, if you guys just look at what you buy or what you see around, like companies, those are things that you want to take in. Like you started with where you worked and what you heard during work. So I believe anyone that is working right now sees and experiences certain companies that are also in the stock market. So that's the type
Absolutely.
of thing that I want folks to think about when they come to investing, and also know that there are programs where you can start with 500 to 4,000 and work your way up. Because 10%, if it's like $1,000 and it's 10%, you're
It's
making
a
a
hundred
hundred
dollars.
dollars. And
And that don't sound like a lot of money until you stretch it out over 5 to 6 years. And you're like, whoa, I could
mm-hmm,
become a millionaire starting with very little, very little. If I can be consistent, if I can
hmm
treat it the same way that I treated school when I went for 4 to 5 years, assuming people went to school.
exactly. And then also with inflation, it's it's better to have your money working for you than you busting your ass to be trying to kill yourself to have a cost of living that's affordable and stuff. You It kind of makes more sense for the to have more cash flow that you didn't even have to work so hard for.
Well, it's a wealth principle. I mean, if you take two people and somebody's climbing the corporate ladder and the next
Hmm.
person's money is climbing for them, the person climbing the corporate ladder at some point you're going to compete with younger people. You got to try to get
Hmm.
through 30, 40 years without getting laid off. You
Yep.
have to at some point realize you go hit a salary cap where you're not getting raises anymore unless you leave and start your own company. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just no comparison. You will never catch the guy or girl who's having their money work hard for them. By the way, while their money is working hard for them, they can go get a job and do what you're doing. So now they got two people working for them. I always said the best way to duplicate yourself is to
Hmm.
have your money working for you. If I can go out and work and make 100 grand, and my money can go out and work and make 100 grand, that's 200,000. But I didn't
Win
have
to
to
win.
work twice as hard for it. And so
Exactly.
that's just a simple wealth principle. It's just called leverage. It's called
Hmm.
OPM. Either other people's money or using your own money to work hard for you instead of you working hard for it.
Exactly. And it's not like the song, but I love the song too, but it, it is about leveraging other people's money and time to be able to build that growth. So that's a great way to remind people about that. And how can the folks find you, sir?
Yeah. And I like to say OPB, leverage other people's businesses, right? So you
Mm.
can't, maybe you can't start the next Facebook or the next Apple, but you can
Hmm.
take your money and invest in the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, in the
Yes.
Tim Cooks of the world. So leverage their business. They know how to source from China. They know how to build
Hmm.
the best iPhone. You don't got to figure that out. All you got
Yeah,
to figure out is how to open an account and hit buy. And so leverage other people's businesses. And
that's
so
true.
that's how people need to be thinking about this game instead of like, I'm going to start a business today. It's like, or I'm just going to partner with the people who know what they're doing and get paid.
Or even with rentals, like I know a lot of people want to do like real estate, and I'm like, you know, because like the economy, like what the average house is like $1 million, and I'm like, you guys can get REITs, and you'll be
Yeah.
like a rental. you have rental income basically with REITs, and it gives you dividends. I'm all about dividends as well, because I wake up, I see the dividends come into my bank account, and I'm like, thank you. I didn't even have to do extra work. So I think using other people's businesses are important as well, and to get that type of mindset. And I love how you mentioned before, like self-development comes into stock market, and just learning these things, because these are the skills that will stay a lifetime, and you can continue that knowledge with your family as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And build a empire and all that good stuff. So
Uh,
that's one thing I'm glad you mentioned. The like things that you mentioned today was very critical and mind-blowing. I like the self-development aspect of the stock market, because I've never taken that in. Hmm,
Yeah.
I
Well,
like that
good. I
one.
hope it helps all the listeners as well.
Yes,
And,
yes, yes.
like you said, one of the questions that I get asked is, how do I work with people or how can they find some of my teachings? They can just
Hmm.
go to the brownreport.com. That's the THE brownreport.com. We also have on there the stock market starter pack, which will teach you the
Hmm.
three most profitable patterns. As well as there's the stock option starter pack, which will start
Yes.
to break down how calls and how put options work, how the rental income strategy works, how the
Mhm.
insurance strategy works. And so if people aren't familiar with that, they can grab either one of those or both just by going to the brownreport.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure that it is part of the show notes and all that stuff. And thank you. Like James, Jason, sorry.
No,
I
that's
kept
okay.
thinking I kept thinking James Brown.
Oh, I get that
For
so
some
many times.
reason.
You made it through the whole show without it, so it's fine. You did great.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the folks before we head off?
Yeah, I want people to just, you know, so many times we don't believe in ourselves. And I once heard this before and it changed my life. And
Mhm.
someone said to me, like, it only took one Gates to change his family tree. It only took one Ford, one Rockefeller, one JP Morgan, right? And so who's going to be that one person with your last name that's going to change the financial tree for your family? And
Mm.
if not you, then who? And I believe there's no better person equipped to change and represent the family's last name than everyone who's born during this time right now, in the time of internet information and the access that we have at our fingertips. And I want
Absolutely.
people to just imagine a day where
Mhm.
they can buy the dream house. You said the houses here are $1 million. Well, imagine a day where it's like, yeah, no problem. I got it. Cash, no approval needed. Imagine the day where they can take the dream vacation, drive the dream car. Imagine a day where a family member says, "Thank you for, stepping up to the plate and doing something different to change our family's financial tree." I want people to just imagine that day, and I think the stock market can be that tool for them.
Nice. And I love that. I hope folks take that in, and please follow Jason Brown. Please the Brown Report. And like I said, I will put in the show notes. So make sure you folks like, subscribe, follow. I want to make sure he gets at least like 100 followers after listening to this and everything, and especially on IG, because you are on IG and all that good stuff. So thank you, sir. It's a blessing. And as usual, we're gonna do the outro. I'm not gonna struggle this time. I know people were laughing at me last week with the struggle, because the struggle was real, but we're all good and all that good stuff. Jason, thank you so much. Until next
Thank
time,
you.
folks, make sure you tell a friend that you love them. And it's by the time you see this, it's gonna be April, and it's financial literacy month for y'all. So make sure you guys check in with Jason. All right. Till next time, folks.
Financial literacy, knowledge is a must. So link the flip boss, watch the result flash, and watch your life change and for your better cause. You have a business or a plan and want to make it. Yeah, flip and floss, are the one to manifest it. Yeah, and if you want to better manage all your credit, call the boss, flip and floss, no doubt, then we do it. Yeah, flip and floss, money literacy boss. Yeah, greatness in our blood because we're working for your cause. Flip and floss, money literacy boss. Yeah, boots up your knowledge for your minimal cost. Hey, yeah, flip and floss, money literacy boss. Greatness in our blood because we're working for your cause. Flip and floss, money literacy boss. Yeah, up your knowledge for your minimal cost.